Yo, what is going on, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to a brand new deck profile video. Today I am excited to bring you guys my Adventurer Marincess deck profile. If the Adventurer engine slash Cashier cards are a little bit out of your budget or don't really fit your playstyle, don't worry. A couple weeks back I did upload a pure Marincess deck profile, so if that interests you more, feel free to check that video out. I'll leave a link to it up in the top right. And obviously I figured I'd make two separate videos for these different lists because they are so incredibly different. And there's a lot to kind of talk about with this list specifically, and we'll get into that as we go over the profile and I explain the choices. And I also want to preface this video by starting with a shout out to a channel called Yule YGO. I did stumble across their channel trying to get some ideas and inspirations for a Adventurer Marincess list. I came across their channel, saw their combo video, saw their recent profile, and a lot of really great ideas coming from that channel, and especially the combo video kind of opened my eyes to what this version of the deck is capable of, and it got me pretty excited to try it out. And I gotta say, I'm a big fan of it now, more than I ever have been, as opposed to the traditional pure build with a lot of hand traps. And I'm giving it a shot, and I do, like I've said, really like it, and it might become my go-to way to play Marincess. So yeah, I wanted to get that shout out at the table, and also of course a shout out to Imperium Duelist. If you guys did pick anything up during their Black Friday sale and use my code, I really appreciate it. Also guys, don't forget that you can use my discount code WinterKills 10 off at checkout at any point to save 10% off on your entire order and support the channel in the process. And if you guys are buying anything on TCG Player, please feel free to use my affiliate link found in the description of all my videos. So yeah, let's go ahead and hop right in to the deck profile, starting with the monsters. All right, so getting started, our first monster here is 3 copies of Marincess Blue Tang, an absolute must at 3 for this deck. One of the best starters, one of the most robust normal summons in the entire deck. It just does so much. On summon, it sends a Marincess monster from the deck to the grave, and then if it is sent to the graveyard as link material for a water link, we can activate the top 3 cards of our deck and take any one Marincess card we find. The rest go back into the deck. So yeah, just outright fantastic card. Level 4 for making, you know, Bahamut's, Dwellers, etc. And allows you to dig into more extenders. Next up, we have 3 copies of Marincess Spring Girl. What I think has to be like single-handedly the best extender in the entire deck. Basically, we can just special summon this monster from our hand by banishing a Marincess monster from our graveyard, and that alone has a lot of synergy with other cards like Bubble Reef. And then, much like Blue Tang, if this card is sent to the graveyard as material for a water link, we can send cards off the top of our deck equal to the number of Marincess monsters we control, and then we inflict 200 damage to our opponent for every Marincess card sent by that effect. So nice little kind of in-engine burn effect there, which obviously we know how good that is, especially with time rules being the way they are, and it's also a level 4 extender. Moving on, we have just 2 copies of Marincess Pascalis. This is a ratio that I've gone very back and forth on over the past couple weeks, but I think 2 is a fine number. It's not really a card you want to see multiple copies of in your hand, and I think for that reason, I think 2 is fine, especially since I was trying to fit other names into this deck and into this particular build, which you'll see those in just a moment. And moving on, we have actually just 2 copies of Seahorse. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a little while and you've been seeing me cover this deck, this is not a new ratio for me. I have experimented with playing 2 Seahorse in the past, and with this build in particular, I want to have a big emphasis on rank 4s, and unfortunately, this card is not a level 4. It is a great starter, it is a great extender, don't get me wrong, although I just wanted to cut one to make room for another level 4 name to help make those rank 4 plays more possible. So that is the only reason I'm playing 2, and I think 2 is a fine number for the time being. And that other name I am playing is 1 copy of Marincess Basilalima. This is a card that I was playing in my pure variant, and I do like this card quite a bit actually. Just having another level 4 within the deck to be able to summon out off of your Pascalis or your Dive or dump off of Blue Tang is very helpful, especially again when you're trying to set up Dwellers and Bahamut Sharks. And not to mention its graveyard effect that we can banish it if a monster we control be destroyed by a card effect. That does come up quite a bit too. I know Orange Light is now newly limited, so the protection effect is not that great, but still it offers that decent graveyard protection sometimes when you need it, and it's just a level 4 body, which is ultimately more important. And finally, the last Marincess monster I'm opting to play is a copy of Mandarin. I should preface this by saying I am playing the Shark engine in here as well, and I bring that up because this is the only extender in the archetype that is capable of summoning itself from the grave, which means it can dodge Silent Angler's hand restriction. I'm also playing Foolish Burial because of the Adventurer package, and this card synergizes very well with that. So that is why I'm opting to play it. I'm also not playing Sleepy Maiden in the lineup here, mainly because with the Adventurer build, having a Marincess normal summon is extremely important because that kind of just kicks off your whole engine. You want to be able to see, a Right or an Enchantress, and then be able to have a way to slap our Marincess down onto the board. And Sleepy Maiden being a level 5 makes that much harder to do, and with trying to figure out room for all these other engines, it was just the most cuttable Marincess monster in the deck in my opinion, especially since I'm playing 2 Battle Ocean, so the graveyard equip effect doesn't really come up that much in this particular build. Alright, so moving on, we have our Shark package, which just consists of 1 Abyss Shark and 1 Silent Angler. Very, very small and condensed package here. Really not a whole lot of room in this particular build with all the other engines taking up space, and it's already at 41 cards, so, kind of had to make a little bit of a compromise. And also this is inspired from Yule YGO. They were also playing a very small Shark package as well, and I like it. Seeing Silent Angler on its own isn't so bad, and it leaves you with just 1 dead Abyss Shark in deck, which is also not so bad. And seeing Abyss Shark with any, level 4 Marincess, as you guys have seen me cover in the past when I played the Shark variant, it's just really, really great starting your turn off that way. Getting access to an early totally awesome, and then having 2 free bodies on field to link off with in the form of Abyss Shark and Bahamut Shark. Really great engine, and I'm opting to play 1 Silent Sea Nettle instead of the 2nd Abyss Shark. Some people might kind of gravitate more towards that, but I like this ratio. Not only is this card really good Foolish Burial fodder, it's also just a free level 4 extender, kind of like Silent Angler and Abyss Shark can be in some cases. But it can also recycle the entire Shark package because of how small it is. And I really like it for that reason, because the graveyard effect of Silent Sea, we can't forget, is very clutch. And of course, we can also use it to recycle our Marincess extra deck as well. Moving on, we then have 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir. This card has been very, very popular in this deck lately, and I can see why. This deck doesn't really waterlock itself until a certain point in the combo, and this card requires us to have no monsters to be able to special summon it, so it just works out really well. It's a free body that kind of just adds an extra interruption to our end board. Technically, we are trading 1 interruption in the form of Wave for Fenrir, which some could argue that Fenrir is a better form of interruption in this format than Wave is, especially since we're playing Crystal Heart, so we don't really always need to worry about not having that unaffected protection, since we could already have it built in. And the fact that this card searches out a copy of itself on top of being a great form of interruption is really nice, because it can give us free Signet Mining discards or free Fateful Adventure discards. So yeah, 3 Fenrir, not really much to say about that. Then we have our Adventure package here. We have 3 copies of Water Enchantress of the Temple. The other build I saw was only playing 2 of these, but I think 3 makes the most sense because I want to see this card more often than I want to see Right, if that makes sense, because this card can be a water extender if we already have an Adventurer token, and it's also a Foolish Burial target as well. And of course, just more copies of Rite of Aramis, which is always good. Then we have 1 Wandering Griffin Rider, of course, for the Adventurer package. Then moving on, we have just 3 hand traps, and it's the only hand trap in the deck I'm opting to play, much like my Speedroid build. I think Bell has a lot of good coverage this format, stops the Shizu cards like Medora and Keldo from shuffling our key extenders back into the deck. It can also stop Adventurer cards, interestingly enough, but it also stops Tearlament and Bestial cards as well. So I think it has the most overlap. It could be Skullmeister, yes, but I like Bell just because, again, it's not a free banish for our opponent's Bestials, so that's always nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it for all the monsters. Now we'll go ahead and jump into the spells, and we have 3 copies of Signet Mining. I really like Signet Mining a lot in this variant as opposed to the pure variant, because we have really good discard fodder in this variant. We can discard Fenrirs that we get for free, and we can also discard Enchantress as well, because that's just a free discard fodder. Enchantress off of Signet Mining always feels like a good combination. Then we have some Marincess spells here in the form of 2 Dive and 2 Battle Ocean now as well. This is also a new change. I've been kind of really liking this ratio quite a bit. It really kind of helps you to see both of these in your opening hand as often as possible. And if you see one, you can always get the other. It kind of helps us to ensure that we're seeing the Dive Battle Ocean combo a little bit more, and I am a big fan of it for right now. Then we have 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone. I think this card is becoming a better and better main decked card right now, even though Mystic Mine is banned. I know it feels very weird to say, but Macro Cosmoses and D Fissures coming to 3, Skill Drain, Necro Valley being all very, very key cards right now in this meta, and Fluanderies, you know, with their map and their trap card. This card deals with all of those aforementioned cards very, very well, and I think main decking it in a deck like this is definitely not a terrible idea. And then, of course, completing out the Adventurer engine, we have 2 copies of Rite of Aramasir, 1 Dracoback, the Rideable Dragon, and 1 copy of Fateful Adventure. And then some other one-up spells, we have again the Call by the Grave, because we'll play it till it's banned, and 1 copy of Foolish Burial, as we have plenty of great targets in this deck outside of Enchanters. We have Basilalima, we have the Mandarin, also Silent Sea Nettle, a good option to Foolish Burial as well. And then the last card in the deck is 1 copy of Marincess Wave. You could probably side this going first, but I just like having the opportunity to be able to search this out at any game, at any point, if I need to, off of Coral Triangle. And there have definitely been some times where I've gone to do it, and I realized it's not in the main deck, so I figured for me personally, it's probably better if I just keep it main deck so I don't make that mistake. And then moving on to the extra deck here, we have 2 copies of Sea Angel. This card I was actually considering to cut to 1 to make a bit of an extra deck change. And I was okay with doing that because I was playing 1 Silent Sea Nettle, so you know you could recycle this card more often, especially since you're playing kind of 2 copies of Sea Nettle with Foolish Burial. But I wanted to opt to play 2, and I made a little bit of a compromise in the side deck that you guys will see. And then we have 2 copies of Blue Slug. We have 1 copy of Crystal Heart. Then we have 2 copies of Anemone, 1 copy of Coral Triangle. Still got to play it, even though it might not always resolve every turn because the Adventure and the Cashier card. Still good to be able to summon and link it off for follow-up for next turn. 1 Marbled Rock, 1 Aqua Argonaut, 1 Bubble Reef, of course, 1 Zeolantis, 1 Toad, 1 Bahamut Shark, and 1 Abyss Dweller. All very, very standard cards. Don't think I really need to do too much explaining on a lot of the extra deck, which is great. Kind of saves my voice a little bit. Now, moving on to the side deck, we have 3 copies of Bestial Magnamut. I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. More tier limit hate. I would definitely swap out the Fenrir's going second for 3 of these because those 2 engines can conflict with each other. If we're using a Magnamut on our opponent's turn and we have a Fenrir in hand, we're not going to be able to summon it because we already have a body on field. But yeah, this is a free 2500 DD Crow, and I figured if I'm going to side DD Crow, maybe I could just side this instead and search another copy of itself to try to like protect our plays during our turn. Then we have 3 copies of Dark Ruler, mainly for just anything really. Fluanderies, Sprite, Tier, very good side deck card of this format in my opinion, especially when you pair it with Cosmic Cyclones to hit those tier limit crimes. And then we have 2 Lightning Storm, great against Sprite, great against Tier, great against Flunder. A 3rd Cosmic Cyclone for, I would say, more so like, you know, Fluanderies and the Tier deck, because they do end on more back row and more back row that specifically cares about being destroyed. So Cosmic Cyclone is definitely a little bit of a better fit against, I think, Tier limit than maybe Lightning Storm is. Then we have 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, obviously for going first, hitting their blowout side deck cards, and just stopping normal summons, especially against Fluanderies and Sprite, can be very, very strong card. And then we have 2 copies of Summon Limit. This is also something I'm trying because with the Cashier stuff and the Adventurer stuff, we can kind of play under this card very, very well. And not to mention, like with Battle Ocean already established, we can turn like any 1 normal summon into our 2nd summon, which is like a 3500 beater, and that really helps us control the game state. So Summon Limit is something I'm trying. This could be anything else, it could be DDG. But I also wanted like another good side deck card going first for Flunder, and Summon Limit is really, really strong and kind of excels against Fluanderies too. In case we get hit with D-Shifter, it's like something we can draw, set, and ensure that they're not playing if we're not playing, right? And then the last side deck card is 1 copy of Splash Mage. This is in here because if I go first, I will side out the Crystal Heart for the Splash Mage in case we need that, you know, the Splash Mage combo, right? And shout outs to Yule YGO for that one. I really like that idea. I think it's kind of clever for going first because you'll definitely need this card more going first than you need it going second. And the Crystal Heart is an expendable card in the extra deck in my opinion, so they can be easily interchanged. So yeah, that is it for the full side, extra, and main deck. Now, like usual, we're going to go ahead and do some test hands before we wrap this video up. All right, so the deck has been thoroughly shuffled after it was all separated. Let's see what kind of test hand we can draw into for our first one for this section of the video. So let's see what we have here. We have a copy of Silent Angler, a copy of Cashier Fenrir, Synap Mining, Rite of Aramasir, and Marincess Spring Girl. So this is a hand that has a little bit of everything. We have some adventurer cards, we have our Cashier stuff, we have some of our shark stuff, and we have Marincess stuff. So works out very, very well. First things first, we will start by special summoning the Fenrir while we control no monsters, and then we'll activate the effect here to go ahead and search out another copy of himself for later on. Now, we could also use the sign up mining and pitch the Fenrir that we've gotten for free basically, but we don't need to do that just yet. And that's one of the nice things about Fenrir, is not only again is an interruption, but it's just free discard fodder. So now we're gonna go ahead and not activate sign up mining. We're gonna activate the Rite of Eremacir, and we're gonna go ahead and special summon our token and then activate the Fateful Adventure directly from our deck. I'm sure most of you guys have seen this stuff already 1,000 times, so won't dive into too much detail, so we'll get the Fateful. So yeah, right now we have a couple options. We could obviously start by normal summoning the Spring Girl and then linking into a Sea Angel and then chain blocking with the Fateful Adventure, right? We could do that. Or we could sign up mining to go ahead and grab Blue Tang, which will allow us to get access to more extenders and make a better board. So I think I'm gonna do that. And again, that free Fenrir coming in clutch for that very purpose of being discarded for things potentially like Fateful or sign up mining. We'll go ahead and grab Blue Tang. And now we're gonna normal summon Blue Tang. And we're not going to go ahead and activate the effect of Blue Tang, obviously, because we can't, because of right. And then we're just going to link this off into a copy of Sea Angel. Not going to go for Blue Slug here for two reasons, obviously. We have nothing valuable to grab back in our graveyard, and we still need to summon Griffin Rider, and if we use Blue Slug, we'll be waterlogged. So right now, we're going to go Chainlink 1 Sea Angel to add a spell, Chainlink 2 Blue Tang to activate 3, and Chainlink 3 Fateful Venture to add an equip spell from our deck to our hand, or we could equip it directly from our deck, but we're going to add it to our hand for obvious reasons. Shuffle here before we excavate the top 3, see if we can find a Marincess spell, make our lives a little easier. We do find a Mandarin, that's a free extender right there. So here we don't technically have to grab Dive. It would make things a little bit easier in terms of, you know, establishing rank 4s and stuff, but we're just going to go ahead and grab Battle Ocean. And now we're going to go ahead and activate the other effect of Fateful Adventure here to search a monster. So we're going to go ahead and grab our Wandering Griffin Rider here, right on the top. And then we're going to discard the Draco back and then re-equip the Draco back from grave once it is sent there. Now we can go ahead and activate our Battle Ocean. Now from here we can go ahead and freely special summon the Wandering Griffin Rider to the board, giving us that extra sort of insulation from hand traps. Then we can use the Spring Girl in our hand by banishing the Blue Tang. And then we can go ahead and link both of these off into a copy of the Anemone. And we don't have to technically use the Spring Girl effect here, but we might as well use it now. We do end up milling a right, so no big deal there. Enchantress can grab that back from the grave as well. And now we're going to use the Anemone to bring back the Sea Angel. And here I'm obviously choosing to bring back the Sea Angel so we can special summon this Mandarin we got from our hand. And then we're going to link both of these off into the Crystal Heart. So we can go for an unaffected link 4 here. That's something we always get to do, but always feels good when we can go for it. Then we're going to go ahead and link 4 into... we could go for Aqua Argonaut here, but I do see a rank 4 line if we make the Bubble Reef instead. So we're going to go ahead and summon Bubble Reef. And we're going to activate Chainlink 1 Battle Ocean, Chainlink 2 Anemone. Anemone will just add back the... Spring Girl here, importantly something that we can discard. And then we're going to go ahead and equip. And then we're going to use the other effect of the Bubble Reef, discarding the Spring Girl to bring back the Blue Tang. And then we can use the effect of the Silent Angler to go ahead and special summon itself. And then we can either go for Bahamut Shark here into Toad, or we could just go for a very simple Abyss Dweller line like that. And that is pretty much our end board right there. We have Dweller, Unaffected Bubble Reef, drawing us a card in our opponent's standby phase. We have an Omni Negate here from Griffin Rider, and we have Fenrir. And not to mention, the Fateful Adventure is not only giving protection to our Adventure token, but it is also giving protection to our Bubble Reef, because it is equipped with equipped spells. So yeah, that is it for our first test hand there. Very, very nice end board. Let's wrap things up here and go into a second test hand. Alright, so enough shuffling there. Let's go ahead and draw into our second test hand for this video. We have Enchantress, Rite of Eremacir, Pascalis, Combat Ocean, and Sign Up Mining. So yeah, already really looking like a solid hand here. The only thing that maybe make it better is if we had like a Blue Tang instead of a Pascalis in our hand, or if we had like a Fenrir instead of the Right or the Water Enchantress. Be a really, really good hand. But, you know, seeing these two cards together isn't always bad, because if you have Right and Enchantress, the Enchantress can act as a water extender in some cases. And in this case, it could also act as free discard fodder for our sign-up mining. So I don't think we necessarily need the Enchantress to be a water extender with a hand like this, since we already have Pascalus and Battle Ocean, which means we can get to dive and we can summon out pretty much any monster we need directly from the deck. So I'm going to start by activating sign-up mining here, discarding the Enchantress. Maybe we force an Interruption Right, and then we're going to go ahead and, of course, add a copy of Blue Tang here. And then we're going to go ahead and activate the Graveyard effect of Enchantress. And we're going to go ahead and search out Right. And then we're going to go ahead and activate Right, of course. If I could stop throwing my cards everywhere. We'll bring out the token, and we'll grab the Fateful Adventure as well. This will go to Grave. And we're going to start by normal summoning the Pascalus still here. But we importantly can bring back the Pascalus later to bring out the Blue Tang from our hand. So we're going to go ahead and normal summon Pascalus and link it into a copy of Sea Angel, as is typically standard here with the Adventure build. And we're going to go Chainlink 1, Sea Angel, add a spell, Chainlink 2, Fateful to search for the equip. And that chain block there is always really nice. So we'll grab 2 cards there for basically just 1 normal summon. And now we're going to go ahead and activate the other effect of Fateful. And we're going to go ahead and search out our Wandering Griffin Rider, discard the Draco back, and of course re-equip the Draco back. And then before we go any further, we're going to special summon our Wandering Griffin Rider. Then we're going to activate our Battle Ocean, and then we're going to go ahead and activate Dive. Now with the Dive, we can either summon from Grave, since we already have Pascalus in circulation, or we could just get another Pascalus directly from the deck and, you know, kind of get another name in the graveyard to be able to recycle stuff on the following turn. It doesn't really make too big of a difference. I guess we'll just summon one out of deck, because free cards is free cards. Summoning from deck is definitely better in some cases than summoning from the grave. So we're going to bring out the Pascalus, and then we're going to activate the Pascalus effect, summon out the Blue Tang that was in our hand. And then we're going to activate Blue Tang's on summon effect, since it was not normal summoned here. And we can send a Marincess monster from the deck to the grave, and we're going to send Spring Girl. And I guess that works out well, since now if we do go for a Spring Girl line, we have an extra, you know, name and grave to be able to banish. So now we're going to go ahead and link off the Sea Angel and the Blue Tang into a copy of the Coral Anemone. And we could use the Graveyard effect here of the Blue Tang, and I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. So we're going to go ahead and excavate 3. Quick little shuffle here, and let's see what we get. Ghost Bell, Basilalima, and Wave. I'm definitely going to take the Wave here. Okay guys, so Winter from the Future here. I already completed this test hand actually, but the end board was a little too suboptimal for my liking, and it took me a second to figure out what I did wrong, and I wanted to come back and recreate everything and finish the test hand properly. So the way this end board should be played out is that we use the effect of Anemone here, not to bring back the Blue Tang like I did before, but to bring back the Spring Girl. And then we link off the Spring Girl into a copy of Blue Slug. And we go Chainlink 1 Blue Slug, target Spring Girl, Chainlink 2 Spring Girl, and we mill 3. We hit a Mandarin, a Fenrir, and a Bell, so our opponent will take a whopping 200 damage, and we get a free extender in the process. And now we're going to go ahead and special summon the Spring Girl by banishing this Blue Tang all the same. And then we can go ahead and overlay these into a copy of Bahamut Shark. Bahamut Shark will detach the Spring Girl. And we go ahead and summon out a copy of the Anemone. And then we can link these off into a copy of Crystal Heart. And then we can link the Crystal Heart and the Anemone into a copy of Aqua Argonaut, which is unaffected by our opponent's card effects. And we also get a card back to our hand. So we could add back the Spring Girl here. And I think that's probably what I'm going to do. And then we can equip up to 2 here. We don't want to equip 3, so we can use the Wave in our hand still. And yeah, I think that is just overall a much better end board than what I had before. I before ended on an Argonaut that was not unaffected, and I still made a Toad. So I just found out a better way to do the end board ultimately, and I think it's a win-win for everybody. Because if we're gonna go for Argonaut Toad boards, I feel like we should at least try to make the Argonaut unaffected by card effects so we can play around Super Poly as much as possible. Granted, the card's not super popular at this current format, but you know, if we can be cautious, why not play on the side of caution, right? So that's it for that test hand. Let's move on to the third and final test hand of the video. All right, deck is all shuffled up. Let's draw into our last test hand. We do have a copy of Pascalis, Mandarin, Battle Ocean, Signet Mining, and Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. So just all Marincess cards here, nothing too crazy. So I'm going to start this hand by activating Signet Mining, discarding the Mandarin if they hand trap us there. So what? That's fine. We still have plays. We're going to go ahead and grab Blue Tang. And then we're going to go ahead and normal summon Pascalis, effect to bring out the Blue Tang, activate the effect of Blue Tang, and we're going to go ahead and send Spring Girl. And then from here, we are going to go ahead and link into I guess the order doesn't matter a whole lot here. But I'm going to go ahead and link into a copy of Sea Angel. We'll go Chainlink 1 Sea Angel, Chainlink 2 Blue Tang. We excavate 3. We find an Abyss Shark, but unfortunately it's not a Marincess card, so we cannot take it. But I guess we do take the Pascalis there. I almost just gave up a free card. My apologies. So now we're going to go ahead and add the other piece of the puzzle. We already have Dive. We already have Battle Ocean, so we're going to grab Dive. And I guess Pascalis is free discard fodder at this point. So now we're going to activate the Battle Ocean here. Then we're going to activate Dive. And since we want to go for a rank 4 here, and we have a good chunk of our extenders already out of the deck, this is where summoning out a copy of Bassa Lima makes the most sense to me. That's exactly what we're going to do. Free level 4 body out of the deck. And also has that graveyard protection. So now we're going to go ahead and overlay both of these into Bahamut. And we'll detach the Bassa Lima and go ahead and bring out a copy of Toad. And from here, we can go ahead and link both of these off into a copy of Coral Anemone. And we can activate Battle Ocean here just in case things go wrong. We'll just equip 1. Now from here, we can go ahead and use the effect of Anemone to bring back Spring Girl. And then we're going to link 1 into a copy of Blue Slug. We'll go Chainlink 1 Blue Slug targeting Spring Girl. Chainlink 2 Spring Girl will mill 2. We mill Dive and Right, so our opponent will take 200. And we'll add this card back to our hand. And now we're going to go ahead and link 3 into Coral Triangle since we can actually go for that here. Since we are not, under that water restriction. Well, we didn't summon things other than waters this turn. But we are going to use Chainlink 1 Battle Ocean, though, and Chainlink 2 Anemone. Anemone will target I guess we can just target the Blue Tang here. It's just going to get discarded anyways, but we don't want to target something potentially valuable to maybe get hit with a DD Crow or something, or a Keldo Murdora. Now we're going to activate Coral Triangle, and we're going to go ahead and discard. We already have a Pascalis engraved, so we'll just go ahead and discard. I guess we'll just discard the other Pascalis. I'd rather not discard the Blue Tang here, to actually be totally honest. Although it really doesn't matter too much. So we're going to add Wave. And then, so long as we don't special summon or discard the... So we're going to add Wave here, obviously. And then so long as we didn't discard the Spring Girl, I think that's what matters the most. So we're going to summon the Spring Girl by banishing the other Pascalis in our graveyard. And now we can use the effect of Mandarin, targeting the Coral Triangle. And this is key because now we can make Crystal Heart. And we can now basically play around Super Poly and guarantee that we don't auto lose to it. And we're going to go ahead and summon this out here. And I like to equip Coral Triangle right now, mainly because we don't want this to get shuffled back into our deck by Medora or Keldo, because that hurts quite a bit. It's good follow-up, so we want to keep it equipped while we can. So yeah, that is our end board. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 forms of interruption plus good follow-up, and we also have follow-up in the form of Triangle and Coral. Yeah, pretty good end board. They can't Super Poly our end board here, so our Toad is fine. Our Aqua Argonaut is good. And I'd call that a pretty successful board there. The only thing that would have made it better, maybe if we had like something like Abyss Shark to maybe possibly end on a Dweller on top of all of that. But yeah, that is the third and final test hand. I hope you guys enjoyed this profile. If you did, be sure to drop a like. Let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below. And yeah, as always, Winner Kills signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And last but certainly not least, a big thank you goes to our Divine Level channel members who are Pony Start, Cadillacs84, Justino, HGH Cyber, and Mizfid. Thank you guys so much for your very kind and extremely generous support of this channel.